Hello, entrepreneurs, dreamers, business owners, and happy people with high hopes. Welcome to Cashflows with your host, Cash Matthews.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Cashflows. I'm Cash Matthews, and we're glad you're here today. Kenneth, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's been a wonderful year we've had, and
It has.
we are exploring. What issue of Cashflows is this today?
This is number 27.
Wow, in a row.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, just since we started this morning.
Yeah, I got a little scratchy throat from 27 hours in a row in the last 4 hours. So
That's right. That's right.
That is phenomenal. Well, good morning. Welcome to Cashflows. We are a show dedicated to what we call the good life and talking to people out in the community that are doing good things, bringing good things to life, whether it's business or health or relationships or just in general, how to have a little bit better life. We like to bring those people on the Cashflows program and share them with the world. So thank you for being here. And we're coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma in the Elevate Coworking building.
Mm-hmm.
And we're happy to be in this building as well.
Yes. So I'm also happy to be in this building.
Yeah, outside it's a little chilly outside.
It is.
All right. So anyway, so we'll have a guest here today just in a little bit, and we'll introduce Andrea here in a moment. But hey, Kenneth, I'd pulled out the old Commodore 64 computer. I think I do this almost every other night. And
Right.
and I log in, I use my dual density high floppy disks, and it only takes me 7 or 8 minutes to get the computer
Right.
turned on, and that's a record for me, by the way.
Do you have to blow them off sometimes before you stick them in?
I do, and I
Yeah.
like to do that. And but I love the green monochrome screen.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
like it is
The best.
very, very pleasant. And
The original
so
color
I got
TV.
the Commodore out. I played a game of Pong
Right.
on my computer, and then I got an email from a guy's Hotmail account, and I was actually on AOL.
Okay.
I don't know if you're still getting them, but I got a new disc in the mail.
Yeah. I got 100 minutes on my last one, I think.
Yeah, they've showered
High
it down a
roller.
little bit to like 12 minutes, but
Oh,
every
okay.
time I get a disc, I get a free 12 minutes on AOL.
Okay.
So I'm on the Commodore, I'm playing some Pong, log on to AOL, and one of our listeners actually had a comment for you. And
Oh.
apparently you're building quite a fan base out there.
Wow. I
And-
keep getting these questions. This is so interesting. I
Yeah.
wonder what they were asking.
Well, this guy was from a town called Pink, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Right between Norman and Tecumseh.
Now, is that where the famous musician is from, or something?
I don't know if she was named after the town or not.
Maybe the town after her. Who knows?
I'll have to ask. I think the mayor and the janitor and the dog catcher are all the same person.
It's possible.
It's a town of like 4 people. But anyway, we had a listener from Pink who, I don't want to say, stalker type,
Right.
but what do you think? I actually met him in a chat room on AOL, and he's like, Kenneth, right? I'm like, yeah, I got him. And he's like, can you ask him something for me? And I'm like, sure. And his name was Chatty Cat.
Oh, okay.
14.
Chatty Cat, 14.
Chatty Cat 14.
Wonder if that's an age or the year they were born.
I don't know. I couldn't
Maybe
tell if it was,
both.
yeah. And I was assuming it was a dude, but it might have been a non-dude. And they said, hey, can you ask Kenneth a question for me? We're big listeners here in Pink, Oklahoma. I'm like, okay. And I wrote it down, and I actually have it right here.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, Mr. Kenneth.
Yes.
What's a guy like you doing in a nice place like this?
Oh, okay.
So,
that
yeah.
question. I thought it would have been a different one, but no, that one. Okay, so
That's what came up.
So Chatty Cat 14 because 13 was already taken. So I'm actually part of the welcoming committee for Sasquatches. Have you seen any?
Not clearly.
not clearly. Clearly not. Not clearly. Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah.
the welcoming committee for Sasquatch.
For Sasquatches, yeah.
I don't know if you can see this, but we are
Right
a
there on
big
your hat.
fan. People make fun of the Bigfoot. Yeti keeps on coming back.
Yes, he does.
Okay, come on, that was something.
That was something, yeah.
You got to work with me. And
We have
then
a
we've
button
got
for
in the
that.
background the hide and seek champion.
I feel like that's actually where it should be, is in the background, right? Isn't that funny?
We ought to do a show on Bigfoot.
We need to slide it behind the plant or something
Ooh,
because it's the hide and seek champion.
I think that would be awesome. We'll do that on the next show.
Next show, we don't want to
Just
interrupt too
for
much.
the record, I don't know where do you stand on Bigfoot?
I've never seen him, so he must exist.
Whoa.
Okay, that's pretty deep right there.
It is.
Okay, well, let's. You want to get on with our show?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll allow
The people
it.
came here to hear.
That is why the people are
guests.
here. Yeah,
That's why
the
they're here,
senseless,
yes.
mindless banter between.
right.
Yeah, I think that's run its course. All right. Well, Kenneth, thank you for being here and all that you do. So, Cashflows is a show, and you can see our theme on the background, and it is fire, aim, ready. So many people in life they have a thing they want to do or accomplish or become, and I don't want to go to the grave with the music still in me.
Hmm.
I'm just a big believer in taking action. Good action, well, if you can, but I think bad action's better than perfect no action. And so we believe in fire, aim, ready, and just about getting started. So if you're here to write a book or make a poem or learn the guitar or learn to dance,
Make a podcast.
make a podcast, any of those things that are on your bucket list. I don't like that phrase, bucket list, but if there are things you wanted to accomplish, our goal is to bring people from our community who are actually in pursuit or have accomplished a goal, and that their lessons would be meaningful to you. So, with that, we want to introduce Andrea Reed, and thank God, and our studio audience seems to be in high favor.
Yes, they are.
So, AndreaReed.com is where they can, AndreaReedWellness.com, excuse
Yes.
me. And sorry, I will make mistakes today, and we are a one shot, no edit
Yeah.
kind of deal. So,
Love it.
so Andrea, tell us just a real quick how when we met at the Business Owners Networking Group,
Yes.
and if you would just take just a brief minute and share with us like what that's been like, how we met. Was it controversial? Was it weird for you? Like, what was that like?
How awkward was I? Yeah. So I was in this Facebook group. I had a friend add me, another business owner add me to a Facebook group. And actually, Dr. Maria from Kingdom Chiropractic.
Yeah,
And
one of our favorites.
yeah, I was getting treatment with her, and she's like, "Have you gone to one of the meetings yet?" And I said, "No, I don't know. There's so many groups, and there's so much noise, and there's so many things." And she just took a few minutes with me and told me about, what you guys had done in Texas and how you were building this organization that was really about creating meaningful connection with people.
Right.
And that's where my heart is, absolutely. So I was like, I'm in, I'm going to go check it out. And I went to one of the breakfasts. And I've heard you say this as well. It's like having 80 one-on-ones in a couple of hours because
Right.
there's so many amazing quality people that are all there to lift each other up. Like it's mind-blowing, and it's unlike anything. I've been doing networking as a business owner since 2010, and this is probably one of only two places that I've ever like business networked before that's
Right.
been like this. It's had very heart-centered, so
Right.
love it.
Yeah. So I mean, I know you've done a lot of one-on-ones with our members and
Mhm.
people know you. You're kind of a big deal.
Oh,
Eh,
no. No, absolutely not.
well, but it is a different, visually different than, running in and dropping off your business card,
Yeah.
pounding your chest a little bit, and then hoping you make the sale.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm getting to know families and people and hopes and dreams and challenges that people are having, and we're getting to know each other as humans. And then,
That's a good line. Know each other as
as
humans.
Yeah.
humans, like eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart conversations. And, sometimes we talk about work and sometimes we don't. I think I've met with you 2 or 3 times and we've talked about everything and not business at all.
Yeah.
And it's been just really cool getting to know you in that way too. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I had actual business questions for you too, but I walk
Right.
away feeling really good about it. And I think so many times people think about having business meetings and one-on-ones and connections, and it has that kind of, I don't want to say like an ick feeling, but kind of
That's
like,
the word, I think. I think that's the word we use. And there's a lady coming on later today, actually, and I've known her almost 2 years. And 2 weeks ago, she said, "This is going to sound weird, Cash. What do you actually do for a living?" And I just gave her. I went, you wouldn't believe me if I told you." And I think there's always time to get to that point because I really want to know people as the human behind it. And we've just had a really good experience with that. And now there's a group of 5,600 people. We're going on cruises together and going bowling together and going to hockey games together. And I mean, it's just turned into a really neat community
yeah,
of people who like each other.
yeah.
And that's the anomaly. And we're not out trying to sell each other things. So
Mhm.
Well, and you can see there's a need for it, that people are responding to this and showing up in droves for it. So,
right. And I think one of the things that keeps people away from networking is this worry that they're going to be sold or
yeah.
pitched. And we're not opposed to any kind of sales you got to talk about what you do at some point, but
Mhm.
we just are kind of the I don't know, the kinder, gentler way to do that. and it takes a little bit longer, but it lasts a whole lot longer as well.
Yeah.
And so anyway, well, we're glad
Absolutely.
you're here. So we want to
Thank you.
learn. We want to learn about you, and we want to hear your story and what's led you up to this moment. And I know a little bit about you, but our listeners and viewers and readers and telepaths,
Right.
they want to know the rest of the
And
story.
AOL subscribers.
Our
and-
AOL subscribers are at an all-time high,
Yeah.
and we want to thank Commodore 64 for being one of our sponsors as well. And you can reach them at their Hotmail address.
Right.
I'm sorry.
That was my first computer, Commodore 64. No joke. My dad rebuilt it. Floppy disks that were actually floppy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Those
Joyce-
are the days.
Joystick with one button. And yeah. Those were the
Beautiful,
days.
beautiful days, man. Well, so we're coming to the world from Tulsa, Oklahoma. How did you arrive here in Tulsa, Oklahoma? We want to hear your story.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting story to me, at least. I think it is, and I'm going to make it the short version. But I was born and raised in Vancouver Island in Canada, and just myself and my parents, so only child. And I left Canada when I was 19 and decided I wanted to travel. Like travel is in my bloodstream. And so I moved to Holland and worked there as a nanny for 4 kids for about a year.
Wow.
And the plan, yeah. And I'm thinking, man, I had so much energy at 19. I
Wow.
like ran a household and looked after 4 kids. And I was like, it's no big deal. And now I'm thinking, okay, at 47, I have 2 kids. And I'm like, man, what I would do for some of that energy from youth. But the plan was to go there for a year and then come back home. And that's what I told my family and my friends. And it was just so easy to travel over there. You can be an hour in another country. So I went
Right.
from Holland and I moved to England for 7 years. I never really came back except to visit. But I thought moving to England would be less of a culture shock because they speak English.
Right.
It was more of a culture shock because words over there don't mean the same thing they do here.
Right.
And but anyway, so I had a business opportunity where I was sent to the U.S. for 8 weeks training through my company, and that's actually why I took the job. I was like, "This is great. I'm going to travel some more." And sat across the table from my boss, like you and I are right now, and I'm like, "Okay, where's my first place? Where am I going to go?" I'm thinking like I've never been to New York, and still haven't been there. And he says, "Well, we're going to start you out in Oklahoma City."
Oh, okay.
What? What?
Yeah, a little different than New York.
So I debated sharing this. We don't get a whole lot of American geography in school in Canada. And I knew that it was a musical and a song.
Ah.
So just full disclosure, did not know where Oklahoma was, but got on a plane and came here. And my husband worked for the same company. I met him on day 3. And we ended up having a long distance relationship, flying back and forth before we decided that I would come over here. And I just kind of fell in love with the people. I mean, I showed
Wow.
up in Oklahoma from England in July. So it was 100 degrees.
Now, what year is this?
This is 20 years ago.
Okay. All right. So you've been here a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just blown away by how kind the people were. And, people still held the door, and they do now still hold
Right.
the door open for you when you're walking through. And yes, ma'am, and no, sir. And that's a rare thing nowadays. So I've been here ever since.
And then you moved to Tulsa when? Tulsa
So-
area. I know you don't live in Tulsa proper, but
Right outside. We're a mile and a half outside of Tulsa County. So about a year later, after I went through immigration, I got a job up in Tulsa. So we moved up here and built, and we've been there ever since.
wow.
So
So so you're Canada to Tulsa essentially.
yeah,
Canada, Holland, England,
Tulsa.
Oklahoma City, Tulsa.
Tulsa.
I think a lot of people take that same route.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Several.
pretty common.
Several have.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So you work in the health and wellness industry,
I do.
and I have a particular fascination with that industry. And so I want to hear first, how did you get involved? And I want to talk about that industry a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe we dig in a little bit on that as well.
Yeah.
How did you get started in health and wellness?
Yeah. I'm second generation health and wellness. My mom in the 1980s, kind of speaking about pre-internet times, was given a diagnosis that she didn't accept and healed herself through changing her diet. Took her about, I share that it took her a decade to heal herself. And she talks about how it took her just about 9.5 years to find the right answers.
Right.
And once she did, her health improved drastically. So most of my childhood, my mom was sick, and we went through this transition of changing food and just completely transforming the diet. So I grew up knowing that food is medicine. I grew up knowing that the body can heal itself. The intelligence that created us is within us, and the body wants to be well. We just got to get back to homeostasis through removing what doesn't work for us, what's hurting us, and adding what's value added and what our body
Add
needs.
what's good to you.
Yeah,
Right.
take out the bad, add the good, and the math handles itself. It should. So I grew up with that foundation, and when I had my healing crisis, mid adulthood, early adulthood, that's when I kind of dove into the emotional root of things, and came to realize that while food was definitely a piece that is really, really important, if the body has so much stress in it, the good eating is almost negated by the stress in the system and the
Right.
nervous system and the body. And so I started researching and learning for my own purposes because I had a new baby at the time, and I had to be well for him, and I had to. And I think that that's probably why it unfolded the way it did. But yeah, I started diving into unresolved trauma and how it gets stored in the cells and how the nervous system responds to what it carries, not necessarily what's actually happening around us,
Right.
and learned ways to heal myself and my nervous system and my past trauma, and then realized this is really valuable and people need to know about it. So I became a practitioner with various modalities, and have been working with people for about 6 or 7 years now, helping them.
So
So
what about modern day stress? Not I mean, a lot of people have had trauma and things happen that they carry around with them.
sure,
But what about the modern day stress of traffic and work and family and
yeah,
all the things that bring us stress and finance? I think finances like
huge.
people stress over these things. How do you see that affecting the health of people?
It's a huge issue with health with people, and I feel like maybe there's two different ways I could look at this. One is that we have more modern conveniences now than ever.
True.
We're not getting up and going and starting a fire in the hearth or going and
Right.
although that sounds really nice. I
It,
love
it
that
actually
idea.
doesn't
I
sound that
know.
bad.
We're not, yeah, right? We're romanticizing, no indoor plumbing. But we're not hauling water in to prepare things in the morning and things like that. Like we flip a switch, the lights go on, we turn on a tap, and water comes out.
Clean
And
water, yeah.
clean water.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And yet, so we have more modern conveniences than ever before. We should be less stressed and have more time than ever in history. Do you know anyone that has less stress and more time right now?
No.
Please let me know who they are, because I don't know anybody who has that. So my feeling is that, so jumping into a little bit about what I do, kind of crossing over here, if we have unresolved stuff, stresses in our system, that fills the container. And it's kind of like a straw that broke the camel's back
Hmm.
issue. I think that if the container of someone is already really, really full of stresses from maybe childhood or parent stresses or generational stresses, then somebody cutting them off in traffic can set someone off. I've had that happen to me before where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can feel my blood pressure increase and how dare they and all these different things. I just feel like we're so overloaded with stress, physical, chemical, emotional stresses that are just being poured at us all the time, that one little thing can set people off right now.
Right.
We're kind of at this tipping point where people need to start handling it because we're seeing the life expectancy get lower. We're seeing anxiety and depression numbers in children, especially, double every generation now.
Wow.
And those numbers were before 2020. So, yeah, I think that traffic and, pollution and, cellular stuff and, environmental stuff are all adding, and the pollutants that are in our water and our food and our air and different things are all adding to that. But I really think that we have a potential to clean our containers and really handle what we're
That's a neat
carrying.
way to say it, clean our containers. I
Yeah.
like it. Yeah. So, one of the things that I think brings a lot of stress to people, and this may not be in your area, but I think social media brings a lot of stress to people. They see these imaginary lives unfolding that don't really exist.
Yeah.
None of us shows the whole thing. We show our highlight reel pretty
Yeah.
much on Facebook. And, do you see that being a contributor to stress? In my world, it seems like it. People trying to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's another symptom of an underlying root cause that could be there. I think if somebody has a root issue of not feeling enough, that's going to reflect in the social media they see.
Yeah.
I have had to create very healthy boundaries around my time and with
Yeah.
social media, and I've curated my feed to the point where uh, I am intentional about what I'm spending my time looking at. And
Right.
I would say that's about 70 or 80% of the time. Other times I'm like, oh, I got stuck in the matrix. And my kids will hear me say that. I'm like, put it down. I didn't realize I got sucked in.
Well, I think it's an easy thing to do. In fact, I mean, this is
Mhm.
a social media driven podcast
Sure.
essentially, since we met through a Facebook group called the Bong. But I think there's benefits to it as well. But I think one of the negatives is just, and I think you just said it, getting lost in the matrix.
Yeah.
And you look at something and it's interesting, and hour and a half later, you've wasted 90 minutes staring at cat videos. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with
Oh, no, not at
quality
all.
Which could
cat
be
video.
supportive of
Right.
your mental health
Well,
because
yeah, I
cat,
mean, cat videos. I mean,
All the time.
literally, I think they could make a prescription for those, like
Yeah.
not a subscription, a prescription, and
Correct.
it would just make you healthier.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
I agree.
like mandate that you play with dogs.
Right.
I think that would solve a lot of health problems.
Belly rubs.
So yeah, I'm good.
No, not
Oh,
you, the dog.
okay. Well, you never know how these things are gonna
I'm
go. Like,
just to be clear, I was
okay,
talking about the dog.
okay, and me as well. Sorry, this is the day that it all happened.
that's great.
So you have a health oriented business,
Yes.
but how did you turn that into a business? I want to hear, like, when you watched your mom
Yeah.
and you grew up in this. Tell me the aha moment when you pulled the light string and, like, okay, this is a business idea.
Yeah. So when I was in London, one of the jobs I had was running organic food stores in central London. So being in that
Oh,
industry and then moving here, I was also in that industry, but I was still trading time for money. And I never, when you talk about the financial thing, I never had real financial concerns. I always felt that we're pretty magical beings and we can manifest and create what we need. And but having my first child and also having all my healing crisis trigger around that time, I realized I didn't have time to trade anymore.
right.
That was a big aha moment. I was like, "Oh, snap. I can't just go work more hours." In fact, I had been pretty close to what you could call maybe a nervous breakdown from overworking in the past, at least twice,
Well,
just because I was so driven to work and earn and have the independence. And so talking about patterns and things like that. When I worked for myself, I was then pushing myself and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I had to handle my own container and figure out what's going to work with my kids in tow
right,
because I needed to not be trading time. And my husband and I talked about that too. And I was like, I can go to work full time and pay for daycare.
right. Well, so tell our listeners then. I mean, and this is a tough one, I think, for a lot of people in business, is
Yes.
about this balance. I mean, you have kids at home, you homeschool your kids.
Yes.
So you should have showed up in a superwoman cape because you're running your family, you're homeschooling your kids, you're running a business. I know you run some events as well out in the community that are giant. Like, how do you walk me through that? Because I'm not capable of that.
I don't know. I think that we're all capable of a lot more than we realize. And when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. And that's like the kind of cheesy surface answer to that.
Sure.
Um, my reason for doing what we were doing is stronger than when it gets hard to want to quit.
Wait, say that again.
I don't know if I can. My reason for wanting to do what I do
Hmm.
is stronger than um, when it gets hard and I feel like quitting.
So your reason why to is stronger than your reason not to.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
I'm from
Yeah.
Shawnee, Oklahoma, and I like little short
I
sentences.
like Shawnee, Oklahoma.
I do too, man. A great place to grow up.
Yeah.
We have 3 listeners there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
listeners.
pretty.
Hello, Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Yeah, we're stoked about Shawnee. We're big market there for us. Okay, so but I mean, the balance part of it, still there's a practicality.
Yes.
There's 168 hours in a week,
Yes.
and you got homeschool, kids, life, faith, family, husband,
Yes.
friends, the bong. Like, I mean, maybe I'm asking a practical question. I mean, do you organize all that on a calendar?
Yes.
All right, so you're calendar driven.
I have 3 calendars.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
fancy.
it's interesting because we do get a dopamine hit from
Hmm.
planning and
Oh yeah.
organizing way more than implementing.
Yes.
So, I've been really into organizing and then doing that dopamine seeking for after I implement. I'm like, I know after I take these actions, I'm going to feel that rush.
Right.
So, I've been doing a lot of research into that because planning is my jam, color coordinating, all the different colored highlighters and things like that. But then, you get up and it's like, okay, I'm scheduled to get up at a certain time in the morning and actually do the work. How do you not hit that snooze button? I've heard you talk about that
Oh
too.
yeah.
And so I've really worked out my schedule. And now my kids, we've always homeschooled.
Right.
My oldest will be a teenager in a couple of days.
Nice.
I know, I'm so excited. So, I'll have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old, and we're very interest-led learners, and we break up our day in a way that serves them, and then as their needs change, we have to adjust that. So right now we have morning time together. We do project time in the afternoon, a little bit together. They have independent time throughout the day in which I do my work. I spend some time at night planning my day the next day. I spend some time on Sunday planning the whole week. And then I usually spend like week 3 or week 4 planning the next quarter.
Wow.
So
Nice.
planning events, planning what do my Mondays look like? Yeah, I've always resisted schedules, and it leads to chaos.
Right.
If it's like money, if I don't plan on how I'm going to spend my time, it just goes through my
Like a
fingers.
vapor, sure.
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, as a homeschool mom, do you feel like your kids watching you be self-employed, independent thinker, implementer, is there a better lesson than you could teach them than that? I think that's beautiful.
They're very entrepreneurial focused
Yeah.
themselves,
Well, that, I mean,
and
they're
yeah.
watching mom.
Yeah, we've done a couple homeschool maker markets on some regenerative, I never say that word right, regenerative farms here in Oklahoma. We had some kids maker markets. We did one down in Morris, Oklahoma, one at Robinson Ranch, and the kids would set up tables, and we had, 10, 15 different groups of kids out there and
That sounds awesome.
selling all their different wares. Yeah, I'd love to actually create a financial entrepreneurship homeschool program. I haven't really found one. If you know anyone that's interested in the financial
I know a guy
industry.
that wrote a book called Homeschool Money University and created a class called Vacation Business School.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll introduce you to him
Yeah,
later.
I feel like I should know this guy.
You
He
may
sounds
you may already.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. You know what, Kenneth? I think it's time that we take a studio break to talk about one of our sponsors today. Who you got for us?
That sounds good. Today, we're going to have a little talk about MFP with my financial plan. Keep everything you own in one secure, accessible place. See everything you own and know what it is all worth. Benefits include a personal financial website with daily balances, interactive decision-making tools, a secure personal vault, and budgeting tools. It's accessible anytime, and you can get it for yourself at joinmfp.com.
All right, we are here today with Andrea Reed and AndreaReedWellness.com. If you want to get in touch with her and find out a little bit more about what she does. She's a homeschool mom. She's an independent thinker, born in Canada, been in the United States for a while, lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I want to talk for another minute, and this isn't something that we had written down to talk about, but I'm fascinated by what's called the baby boom generation.
Yeah.
People born between 1942 and 1964, depending on who you ask. And we came back from World War II, had 80 million babies. And those 80 million babies had a prolific effect on the stock market, on toys, on Kentucky Fried Chicken, every element that the baby boomers touched. It just blew up and exploded like fast food in 1961.
Yeah.
Nothing before that. Then the baby boom generation, the moms were more dual income households at that point, and convenience became the thing. And then, every area that the baby boomers touched exploded. I was fortunate, like I got involved in the financial industry at the exact same time the baby boomers entered the financial industry.
Hmm.
And all the hippies from the 60s became yuppies in the 80s. And, this 401k thing was invented. Well, as they've aged, and I've studied this group now for 40 years. I wanted to know about it. I wanted to understand it. And 10,000 people a day right now are turning 65 for the next 22 years. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, so the market is giant. What I set out to do is understand beyond finances, what are the things that that group of people demands as a product? Two things. Number one is travel. That's something you said you like to do.
Yeah.
And number two is health.
Yeah.
That is what they're concerned about. And if you don't have good health, you ain't traveling.
Right.
And so what does that leave us with? Health. And you're in an industry dedicated to health. And, you know, I think the health world is changing where we're more open today to I mean, man, mental health is something we need to spend more time on, and we've spent less time strategically as a country. I think we need to spend more time on that and health and wellness. And, being well is not just a lack of disease.
Right. Yes.
Wellness is, I mean, we can climb the chart beyond lack of disease and actually be healthy and feel well. And I'm 62 years old. I'm a baby boomer, and it's one of the things that we ain't talking about hot rods and baseball and sports anymore. We're
Yeah.
talking about aches and pains and creaks, and I don't feel well, and I'm not, I've got brain fog. These things they're real things.
Yeah.
And you know, uh, and so I'm not really asking a question, but I'm just making a comment on your business that, they say in life you have to be in the right place at the right time, right? I think but I think there's two more parts to that. I think you got to be in the right place at the right time. Then you have to recognize you're in the right place at the right time.
Yes.
You have to be aware of that. And then finally, you have to take action. Massive, consistent, repetitive, nice action. And so I am very interested in the health industry. It is already giant. We're trying to supplement it with, medical insurance. It's $1,000 a month. We're trying to supplement it with things that are maybe wives' tales, that we aren't, the healthcare system's neither healthy, caring, or a system at the moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people looking for answers.
Yes.
And but you said something a moment ago that is absolutely giant. Food is medicine.
Yes. Yes.
Had you heard that before?
Oh, yeah.
I had not heard that phrase until now o'clock.
Now o'clock.
Yeah.
No, I actually saw that. I had heard it probably a couple of years ago. It kind of started circulating around in my world. And then I actually saw it printed on the side of a lunchbox. So I thought that was cute. And then that's when it really lodged in my mind. Oh, food is medicine. And there it is on a lunchbox.
Well, I think I don't think we want it out there because when the government realizes that food is medicine, they'll regulate it.
Well,
Oh, is that already happening?
have I got news for you?
Oh, they're regulating food? Okay.
If that's what you want to call it.
Food is in quotes.
Yeah,
Okay.
food is a food
and
product.
Edible food products.
Edible food product.
I went to the movies the other day, and you're not supposed to, and it says no outside food or drink.
Uh-huh.
So I took Skittles
Oh, okay.
because I don't believe Skittles is food.
Nope.
Yeah. So I think I would have had a defensible.
Fair enough.
Well, and the medical system, something you said earlier, the medical system is defines health as the lack of disease.
Right.
And I define health as vibrance and the ability to, I'm investing in banking in my future health and wellness right now. So
Right.
I'm in my mid 40s, probably late 40s. I'm going to say mid 40s. And I'm investing
47?
47.
That's mid 40s.
27, yeah.
Mid to late
27,
40s.
Yeah, no, 48 and a half is late 40s.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you got a while.
I got ages.
Long time.
Be nice to yourself.
But I'm proud of that too. And it's the consistent, like you're saying, in business, it's the consistent daily showing up with quality is the same with our health and wellness. And so I'm banking for when my grandchildren are my children's age, that I'm running around with them and they're climbing on me like my kids are now.
Right.
I think if people envision living longer, we also need to envision quality years at the end of our life, not
Right.
just longer.
We had that conversation this morning, Kenneth.
We
Yeah.
did.
You know,
We did.
we are living longer, but are we living better?
Right.
And that's a question that I have because why live those last 10 where you can't walk or stand up or hold your grandkids or, dunk a basketball? I mean, I think later in life you need to, I like
Yes.
that word vibrance, and not many people are focused on that. They're focused on, hey, let's don't have a disease.
Well, most people are in pain and have a lot of stress, and then anxiety and depression and all these different things are crushing people.
Yeah.
And like you said, I like how you said, people need to find answers. And one of the things that my nonprofit organization does is helps shorten the time for people to find answers. Because watching my mom suffer for 9.5 years and then finding a book and then going to see that naturopath and then getting the answers. I'm thinking, man, if she had found that book in year one, my childhood, now I have no regrets, but my whole experience would have been different. Hers would have been too.
Yeah.
And I don't know that people have 10 years now to try and figure out what's wrong with their health because
Right.
it's escalated. That snowball has rolled downhill so far now. It's like people need answers now.
Okay. Well, I'm a big believer in finding a way to better health.
Yeah.
I've had, was born with a weird heart, so I've had issues my entire life, and so
Mhm.
it's just been sort of my sidekick. And now that we've learned more about it, there are things that even can be done, beyond what we were thinking about even 10 years ago. So it's pretty awesome. Well, so let's talk about, I mean, I love the industry. I love what you're doing. Let's talk about how you would define success. What does success look like for you?
Yeah. So I have done a lot of work around allowing money and abundance to be important to me because it has never been important to me in the past.
Right?
However, I feel like if we have one foot in both worlds, that's okay. Like we need to be able to be financially sustainable, financially abundant. I think that the more income good people have, the more good we can do in the world.
Amen.
So while I've allowed that in, success for me personally is not defined by the number of zeros after the number in my bank account.
Right?
So when I read, there was like an end of life survey done, and it was talking about how people at the end of their life experience, they didn't want more money in their bank, they didn't wish they'd worked more hours, they wished they'd had more time with their kids when they were younger. They wish they had more time with loved ones. There were regrets, like you say, the bucket list of travel and all these different things. And it seems like the personal human connections and experiences are what people regret not having if they've overworked. And this isn't a judgment in any way on what people's choices are. I was thinking, when I look back on my life, how am I going to feel like, yes, okay, I may not have always done it right,
Right?
but I did it.
Right?
And so I would define success as like each day I feel like, how have I contributed to my family? How have I contributed to becoming a better person than I've been yesterday? How have I contributed to my community? And that's where I start. And then also having built a business around that contribution, helping the quality of life for other people, that helps. And I feel like that financial side is taken care of then.
Very cool. I have
Yeah.
a phrase for that. I call that, I want to leave a footprint instead of a butt print. Can we say that on this podcast?
I think so.
I
You
think
can delete that out in post. I'm learning all the fancy words. Yeah, do that in post. Let's watch the dailies.
That's right.
that should be a t-shirt, I think, because you just took my paragraph again and made it into a sentence. And I love that.
I'm from Shawnee and from a family of people that need shorter sentences, not longer sentences. I came home from college my first year, and they're like, "What did you learn?" And I went, "I learned the word nasi flosse nilipilification, the longest non-chemical word in the English language." And they looked at me sort of slack-jawed and went, "Wow, $20,000 for that." And nice. I think my mom went, "Cool story, bro."
Yeah, right.
All right, so you are a student of life.
Yes.
You're a student of health. Is there something right now that you're learning that's on your list that you're actively learning?
I am about to graduate from Ingram Institute of Functional Bodywork.
Slow that down. Say it again.
Yeah, so I'm in school for functional bodywork and
Okay.
cranial sacral therapy. So essentially, hands-on. It's not PT, but it's like body work to help the body get organized. It helps with the physical trauma side, getting physical trauma out of the system, getting the body in alignment. And then cranial sacral therapy, which is helping align cranial sacral fluids moving through from the brain to the sacrum and back and forth. So
Did you know anything about that?
I've heard a couple of those words before.
Were you watching like a PBS channel?
No, actually, so I go to a chiropractor, so I just neuro is up here and sacral is somewhere else.
Somewhere else?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the thing does
There
the
you have it.
stuff with the things.
basically, if people have, again, got into it for myself and for my kids, because
Mhm.
my kids like to climb on things and fall off things occasionally, that ratio is really high. And so I wanted to have tools in-house to be able to help them.
Right.
Like all the other wellness things I've done, I wanted to have the tools in-house to be able to help my family so no one had to go to the store at 2 in the morning or wherever, urgent care, And so this felt like a calling. And when I learned why my experiences were the way they were, and how, I had too many tailbone falls, and that's why birth was tough for me, or I had several concussions and head injuries, and that's why my brain processes information different and why I struggled in school. I was like, I want to learn how to unravel that for myself and for others.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I've had quite a few broken bones and stitches,
Yeah.
and I mean, probably more than the average.
Well, your
Yeah.
experience has been very physical with the BMX world too,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, no, that doesn't happen in the financial world. You don't get beat up very often. Yeah, but yeah,
I hope
in
not.
in the cycling, but I kept cycling. I mean, I'm 62 and I still ride my bike.
Yeah.
And like just on my birthday week, I had a bad wreck in front of my house. It was pretty violent, and I was like, "Ooh, man, that could have been the big one right there."
Wow.
But I lived apparently,
Yeah.
so glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, well, so what you became an entrepreneur. You're learning something right now in a field, but what has being an entrepreneur taught you?
Oh boy. So at the same time, the sky's the limit. There's no limit to your potential in this business model because uh, as long as I'm showing up and doing the work and growing, I can, I'm not going to be capped by a boss
Right?
who's going to say, well, you're in this position.
Yeah,
And
this is what you're worth.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for telling me what I'm worth,
Right.
which has been a big piece that I've had to do a lot of work on. And as I have realized, I am actually valuable and I am worthy, it has allowed me to grow a lot more. So entrepreneurship has really been the vehicle to teach me a lot about myself and kind of unravel a lot of limiting beliefs. And but then the flip side of that is if something doesn't work out, yeah, there's no finger pointing in this. It's like if something doesn't work out, it's me.
Right. But that's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
If it's broken, you can fix it. But if
Yes.
a job is broken for a boss or an industry or some kind of climate that you can't thrive in,
Right.
you can't always fix that.
And I found, and I don't know if this is a true for everything, but in the jobs that I've had, I could never override the intentions and the heart of the person that was over the company.
Right.
So if somebody was out of alignment or out of integrity and I was in there just doing the best work I could do, it didn't matter.
Yeah, they built a handcuffs or a ceiling or something
Yeah.
for you, and then when you realize that, that company or that career, and I am not knocking employment. That's not my goal here. But when you realize that you're in an environment that has a set of limitation, and that limitation is how will I retire? Somebody else decides that.
Yeah.
How will my kids fare in life? Where will they go to school? Where will they vacation? How will I eat? What car will I drive? What kind of benefits will I create in my life for my family?
Can I get time off for my kid's birthday?
Yeah.
How can I spend my time?
Yeah, and that time off thing is there's two schools of thought there. Number one, I mean, you need time off, but number two, the minute you realize they give you time off, you find out how valuable you are
Yeah.
and that they can replace you. And sort of, I see this as the American challenge for employees is not all of them. There are great employees out there, and I've had several in my career, and I love somebody who's just great at what they do. But we're all different kind of birds. But it seems like the many employees, they want to work as little as they can to keep from getting fired. And then as the employer, we want to pay them as little as we can to keep them from quitting. And to me, that's sort of the great American standoff in American business culture.
Mhm.
And that right there is why entrepreneurship is exploding right now. And the three of us in this room, we need entrepreneurship to keep on
Yes.
keep on keeping up. So tell us something you've read. I mean, you mentioned a book that your mom read. I don't know if you want to promote that book, but what's something you've read that's made a difference in your career?
So just recently, I read a book by Rachel Rogers, and it's called "We Should All Be Millionaires." And she's a woman of color who has an eight-figure year business, and she is actually Lori, who owns Elevate here, and I are going to meet and talk about having a book club on this program
That is awesome.
here in the spring. Yes, because one of the core takeaways I had from that book was to charge as an entrepreneur, you're charging for your product or your service.
Mhm.
And she was really teaching. And now that I hear it, I'm like, well, this is obvious, but it was really not obvious to me until I heard it that we need to charge for the value of what our service is, not necessarily the length of time, not charging for our time, but for our value.
Right.
And that really clicked for me. I've been wanting to discount services for people to make it more accessible for people who have a need. And she was encouraging people in this program to double what they charge, which was like, oh no, I can't do that. That brought up more things for me to look at. And she said, just go make millions of dollars and then you can donate time and money how you want. And
Right.
that's how you can be of service to the community.
I agree with that completely. I see too many
Yeah.
people, and coming up, it's hard. If you're
Yeah.
an entrepreneur listening to this show and you're just getting started, I mean, sometimes we just do things that may not be in our best long-term interest, but we have
Yes.
to pay the bills now. We discount ourselves. We discount the service itself, thereby discounting our own value for
Yep.
ourselves. And I think that is brilliant. Well, so let's we're going to do one more piece here, and then I want to hear a business nugget for our listeners, something that you would just give anybody. But if you could go back in time, what would 47-year-old you say to younger you?
Oh my gosh. Younger me thought I knew it all. She really thought she knew it all. Um, I would probably have a lot of compassion for younger me.
Okay.
I
All right.
would just smile and nod a whole lot while younger me told me all the things that she knew.
Right.
And I would gently encourage her to look at her worth and her value, because when you have that solid, you can show up in a totally different way of service to other people.
Right.
Because I spent so many years trying to prove myself and blood, sweat, and tears for other companies to try and prove that I was good enough or
Right.
smart enough or people liked me. So I think that's what I would go back and do. I would let her know that the growth is in the journey and there's no destination.
Diggity. I like that.
Yeah.
We're here with Andrea Reed, AndreaReedWellness.com. Andrea, you want to leave us with a business nugget, or did you just do that for us?
Let me think here. So, to anybody starting out,
They could be in business, life, relationships, just a good piece of advice. I mean,
yeah,
one guy said, don't eat yellow snow.
that's great.
And, that, Kenneth, you're shaking your head.
That's a fail.
That was a fail. Golly, man, I worked on that all morning. But I'll tell you one of the best things I ever heard in my life, like by a mile. And I've heard a lot of stuff, and I've studied a lot, and I've read a lot, and I've gone to every seminar and listened to everything. And a guy told me one day, and I'd heard it before, and maybe you've heard this before, but he said, Cash, how you do anything is how you do everything. And on that day, that changed my life.
Yeah.
On that day, it changed my life. And I'd heard it plenty of times before. That was a game changer for me, for Katie. That phrase on that day changed the outcome of my great-great-grandchildren's lives. And I don't even have grandchildren yet.
That's awesome.
So, every so often I hear something. Isn't it amazing? You've already heard it 100 times.
Yeah.
And but when the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
Absolutely. I
And-
was just thinking that.
And there's a dude I didn't even know sitting in a hotel kitchen, like one of those little common areas. And he said this thing to me, and man, it even today it bothers me. That was, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So what else you got for our listeners? Are we good?
I would say that whether you're in that same sphere, whether you're in business or in relationships or in any area of your life, to measure backwards your successes rather than forward with it, because there's always going to be so much more. I've always been looking forward to all the other milestones that I've been looking to achieve, that when we reach these goals, large or small, we need to take time to celebrate that and really allow that to integrate and appreciate and like not just move on to the next thing. So I would say even just taking daily journal time and just reflect on 3 wins for the day would be huge.
3 wins for the day. Great idea. And celebration.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. Kenneth, another successful event here today.
Yes, it has been.
So I guess, are we ready to wrap her up here?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we're here with Andrea Reed, AndreaReedWellness.com. And today we talked about celebrating your wins. We talked about a lot today, but also taking charge of your health. And if you want to learn more about that, AndreaReedWellness.com. And we're so glad you're here today.
Thank you
did a
so much.
great job with us. So we're going to wrap it up. And thanks to our sponsors, Elevate Coworking, CM Customs, Mr. Kenneth Bauckham, and JoinMFP.com. What a great group of people to bring this whole thing together. And until our next show, our next riveting show, actually, till our next show, I want to challenge you. Uh, be nice today. Love on each other. And if you have a minute, think about one person that you could forgive. And even if there's no reason to, what a weight that would be off your shoulders. Forgiveness isn't for them. Forgiveness is for you. And we love it here at Cashflows. We're glad you're here. And I want to say thank you to the 2 listeners in Shawnee, Oklahoma, who keep clicking on, and to our friend over in Pink, Oklahoma, who listens. And Kenneth and I have 3 buddies on Facebook who continually like our post. And to the 3 of you, hey, man, we're heading down to Quick Trip. Y'all want some jerky? Thanks for being here today.
That's our show for today. Stay tuned for another riveting edition of Cash Flows.